I remember when I was little, my mother used to say, enough of that foolishness. She used to say that all the time. You know, we were kids messing around the table, and she'd say, enough of that foolishness. Well, Paul is not saying enough of that foolishness. In fact, Paul is saying, let's have more of this foolishness. You notice how many times he uses the word foolish and foolishness? 6 times there in those verses that we just read together. Let me give you some things just to think about today, can I? First of all, Paul says, in order for the church at Corinth to be revived, in order for the church at Corinth to begin having the impact on the city and the community that God had called them to, the first thing they had to do was proclaim a foolish message. A foolish message. Look at verse 17. For Christ sent me not to baptize, but to preach the gospel, not with the wisdom of words, lest the cross of Christ should be made of none effect. For the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved it's the power of God. Go back to verse 22. For the Jews require a sign, and the Greeks seek after wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified. Unto the Jews a stumbling block, and unto the Greeks foolishness. Verse 25, because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. Paul is warning the church at Corinth. I am telling you the only message that you are to preach is Christ and Him crucified. You are to preach the cross, but I want to warn you, the world thinks it's a foolish message. I mean, think about it practically. He says, to the Jews it's a stumbling block. Well, why would it be a stumbling block to the Jews? Because the leader of this religion was crucified, not as a common criminal. They didn't crucify common criminals. They only crucified the worst. And he was crucified as a blasphemer. The cross was a place of reproach and shame. And yet, Paul is saying, even to the Jews who think it's a terrible stumbling block, it's foolishness to them, that's the message that you've got to preach. I love what it says there, for the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved, it is the power of God. The preaching of the cross.